welcome everyone to the first talk on being authentic in life. So I anticipate this to be a series of talks on living the truth. So we've spent months talking about discovering the truth, uncovering the truth. And in some ways we did practices and engaged with life in order to discover our true nature, to discover that we're not perhaps what we think we are, or in terms of our egoic self, the thoughts of our egoic mind, that we're something much more than that. Then we discovered that we're nothing and everything simultaneously. So now we're kind of moving on to how do you live this realization? And your realization can be at sort of any to any degree. Whether it be a taste of it or deep realization of no self, of no ego, that this, whatever we realize, becomes something that we then live. It's not complete until it's something that we live. So just because we have a deep realization doesn't mean that we will live it. It's having the realization of our true nature, and the true nature of reality is just the beginning of allowing the wisdom, or allowing that realization to live through you. So that's really what I want to talk about over the next several weeks. How it lives through you at a personal level, and how it lives through you in your actions in the world. So when we have an awakening, a realization, it's often we can almost be high on it. It's like a honeymoon with this realization. It's mind blowing, earth shattering. We can but we come down from this high, and life presents itself. Life presents its challenges. And life shows us where we're actually still stuck. It just has a way of doing this. The universe, life continually presents us with what's necessary for us to wake up and for us to live what we have realized. I hope you've noticed that. I don't know why, it just does. So if you have a realization, some truth, the next thing you know, life is presenting something that challenges you to live that. Have you noticed that? It's quite astonishing, actually, how that occurs. But it does occur. It does occur. So so we're talking here for the next weeks or months, or however it unfolds, about living what is true. And living what is true is about throwing ourselves into this beautiful, amazing catastrophe we call life. They use the word catastrophe in the sense of full catastrophe. It's over the Greek, or it's John Kabat-Zinn picked up on full catastrophe living. So living this amazing, beautiful catastrophe fully. So it's really about saying yes to life as it is, with the 10,000 joys and the 10,000 sorrows. So, perhaps we've been used to living life from something that is not true. Perhaps got used to living from fear, control, and struggle, from the sense of me and other, which by its nature creates this struggle and fear, idea that we need to control. So this is about living it from a different place that we'll be talking about. So in essence, realizing the truth of your existence and of reality is just the beginning. You could say it's the beginning of the beginning, and it's also the beginning of the end. So it's the beginning of the end of you believing that you are the little me, or the egoic self, right? So it's the beginning of that end of you believing that you are this little me. It's the end of taking ourselves to be the egoic self. It's the end of that, but it's also the beginning of a beginning of realizing ourselves as one, as one with everything, and emptiness at the same time. So you can see it's a very crucial kind of transformation that's occurring as we live this out in the world. And this is really important. It's really important for us to explore this, especially, I think, in the context of our modern life. We have challenges as practitioners in the modern that live, work in this modern world. We don't have realizations and then have the opportunity to go sit for a year in a cave and let it bake, right? Just kind of to kind of dwell in it and let it kind of percolate through us. We basically have about 30 seconds of baking time, and then we're back into life, right? And this is the reality of our living and doing this work. So it's challenging, right? It's in one way, I would say it's a challenge and a blessing. And it's challenging because we don't get this chance for it to percolate and bake within us. So getting a sense of how to live from this place of non-separation, it can be confusing at times, but it's also a blessing, I think, because it's not limited by any institutional doctrine. Can I use that word? It's not limited by those kinds of what I can just call institutional factors. It's actually unlimited. So it's got this kind of challenge and blessing at the same time, which makes it all very interesting to explore with a group like this. And I think it's crucial for us to explore. So I'm not going to say, this is how you will be once you have realized the truth. That can't be stated that way, because it would just be conceptual. Not only that, you would just have this image of now something that you need to perhaps be like in order to be the truth. And sometimes we do this, right? We'll see somebody who's awake and we'll mimic them in a way, like, oh, if I can be like that person, then maybe I can live the truth in that way. But that's just a conception. That's the egoic mind really conceptualizing how it would be. So with the way we're going to look at it is, it's more of a visceral or intuitive sense of when we are living in accord with what's true, and when we're out of harmony with what's true. And we can get this sense. In fact, someone living completely from the egoic mind has this sense to a degree. They're out of harmony with truth. So this is what we'll be looking at. The invitation of awakening is to be what we have realized. And life will immediately ask us this of us. As I said, it just has a way of immediately putting this in front of us. You have a realization and then shit happens. It's directly related to that realization, perhaps. And this challenges our realization and also shows us where we're stuck, and where there's some more work to be done. And the other reason I think this is important is I get many questions about, how this is actualized in the world, like in terms of social justice work, or in terms of how we would respond in different situations personally and relationships and so on. So this is really an opportunity to kind of explore for ourselves how this unfolds. So again, I'm not going to tell you how it should be. It's an opportunity for us to explore in our daily lives how it is unfolding. Meister Eckhart, someone I've quoted here a few times, a Christian mystic from long ago, was quoted in a sermon he gave on what he called abiding in the revelation of the divine. I love that title for a sermon, abiding in the revelation of the divine. And he said, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, if you were sitting alone, abiding in the revelation of the divine, and your neighbor was hungry, would be much more in harmony with the divine for you to get up and help your neighbor, rather than to sit there abiding in the divine. So it's really pointing to this is the realization. Having realizations isn't about becoming a better me. That's what the me wanted probably when we started. I'll be more compassionate. It's really about living in harmony with the divine. Another quote here, again, from Ajahn Shanti, my secret is silence. So it's a quote. It's a book of poems and quotes. Now the quote is, find enlightenment, then let it go. Become a sage, then step out of her clothing. No one will know you ever again. The world is not my concern, it is myself. From this oneness, individuality can be celebrated. An ordinary man seeks freedom through enlightenment. An enlightened man expresses freedom through being ordinary. An enlightened man expresses freedom through being ordinary. Not sure why he didn't say person there. It's not that old a book, but an ordinary person. So the divine, in realizing your true nature, is not disconnected from being and doing in the world. It's not something that's separate or disconnected in any way. It is the expression. So in a sense, you could say, I'm going to use this word gap to describe when it's out of harmony. There could be a gap between what we have realized and how we are in the world. And the big part of the practice is, kind of minding the gap, getting a sense of this gap, being aware of the gap between the truth that we have realized and the way we express it in the world. So the practice is in a way closing this gap between what we realize and what we are. So we have to be careful when we hear something like that. The egoic mind can get a hold of a statement like that and make some significant efforting out of it. So we have to be careful that we're not making efforts that come out of the mind in attempting to do this. So because this kind of mental egoic effort is bound to failure because it's using the wrong perception to move from. It's not moving from love. It's moving from a point of view. So it's only through love that we can be what we have realized. It's not coming from ideas in the mind, but rather from what we talked about in previous sections, what I call the big heart. So we wait and listen to the big heart. I may have to revive that talking on the big heart because it's so crucial to this practice as well. It's also, so it's living from the big heart rather than ideas of mind, that intuitive sense of the heart space. It's also living from the unknown rather than the known. It's not about living from ideas. In fact, the less ideas we have about truth really allows the mysterious unknown to move and act through us. It's living from the unknown, the mystery. So we're really resting in the unknown. We're not moving from the egoic mind. We're not moving from a fixed perspective or a fixed point of view. We're really moving from mysterious, unknown. Moving from the unknown rather than fixed perspectives or views. So that's why I talk about moving from the big heart rather than from the egoic ideas of the mind. Because for me, the unknown rests in the big heart. It's dropping down from the abstract narrative and ideas of the mind into something more concrete, embodied. So we'll notice when there's any sense of separation within us. We'll notice this. In fact, if there is any sense of separation within us, it will cause a sense of feeling of vulnerability or insecurity when we approach life in this open way. So it will directly point to areas where we still feel a sense of separation, what I call places where we're caught, where we're stuck. Because the invitation is to approach life with total openness, with no agenda. So you can see from the point of view of the me, this is very puts me in a very vulnerable, insecure position. It's not in control. So you'll feel this. So living without agendas. Living without control. A complete openness. Without any agendas. And this can take some getting used to. It can take some time to get used to being in the world without agendas. So really, it's also taking an interest in what is unfolding before us. So it's being what's unfolding in life right now, rather than what do I need to do to accomplish my agenda or to control this aspect of life. Right? This is the little me. Right? Constantly surveying, what do I need to do to control this? What do I need to do to accomplish this? It's a sense of what will unfold next. Being interested in what will unfold. So to the me, this is very vulnerable, right? You can see that. To the me, the little me, the egoic self, this is very vulnerable. So this sense of vulnerability is a kind of a pointer. It shows you the extent to which you're still identified with the separate self, with the egoic self. To the extent that this sense of this feeling of vulnerability or insecurity arises, can really be kind of a pointer. And again, it's a realization right in itself. It's when you realize that there's no separate self that can be hurt. The sense of vulnerability is not a problem. There's no one to be hurt. So we're, again, closing this gap between what we've realized, the truth of what we are, and the way we are in the world. As we do this, we encounter our stuck places. So the gap is kind of held open by these unresolved issues, by these stuck places. And life will continually present situations that show us our stuck places or this gap. Life will present a situation, you'll see this stuck place, the gap, which is a deep realization. And then every time you have a realization, life will present situations or opportunities that challenge you then to live that realization. Life just does this. I've heard some teachers say there's consciousness, impulse to be free, to know itself. I don't know why, but it's one thing I've noticed is life just tends to point out, and all I do is see, and then life presents a challenge to that realization that then I can just this is how I live, how life lives through me, given this realization. Life just does this. So each of these opportunities is an opportunity to see and then let go of control. So again, in this series of talks, I don't want to tell you how to live what you've realized. I'm just going to point out how it works. how life will continually give us opportunities to see and to express what we've realized. And just pointing out to these kinds of processes in terms of how it works and how we can bring a willingness to see. As I've said in the past, it's all we can do is bring a willingness. Other than that, things are unfolding. We can just be willing to see. So it's kind of a freedom in knowing that this is just how life works. And so we'll point out these different ways that life works. Allows us to be kind of open with life. Start to let go of control more and more. We can let go of our agendas and our sense of control. So ultimately, it's love rather than personal will or personal effort that closes the gap between what is realized and what is lived. It's love. It's not personal will. In fact, it's the opposite of personal will. It's willingness just to see, to be present, a willingness to open and say yes to life. A non-negotiable yes to life, to what is. So I always find it heartwarming when I hear someone say, speak about something in their life that they said yes to, and sort of how powerful it was in transforming and in their transformation. So when we're saying yes to what is, we're simply saying yes to the mystery of life. Just saying yes to this mystery, this deep mystery of life. So in a way, you could say we're having this experience of birth, life, and death while remaining who we truly are, the eternal divine. So another way to put it is, while there is no one that is born, lives, or dies, there is the experience of birth, life, and death. And this experience is very real. It feels very real, as I'm sure you've got this sense, as I'm sure you know. So we're saying yes to this experience while remaining what we truly are. Does that make sense? Saying yes to life, yes, this experience of birth and living and death, saying yes to this life, but knowing who we truly are at the same time, remaining who we truly are, what we truly are. Of course, this expression of life, how we actualize our realization, is going to be different for different people. It will all express a realization of truth in different ways. There's no one way. Again, all I can tell you is how the process works. I can't tell you how to live. Some enjoy expressing truth by teaching. Some enjoy expressing truth by not doing a whole lot of anything. Maybe they would the idea of the cave and just being dwelling in the divine is what arises for them. Some will express their truth by getting out in the world and easing suffering in some way. These are all unique expressions and all just as beautiful and true. So we all manifest truth in these many unique ways. So I'll leave it at that and open it up for any questions or comments.